Hello, Patriot. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, gentlemen, in the studio. It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Well, that being said, let's talk about a report coming in this morning that the military has submitted a report of an investigation involving 6 officers over an alleged coup plot. The investigation was titled Indiscipline and Breach of Service Protocol. If you remember, sometime in October 2025, that's when that rumor made the rounds that there was a certain attempt to overthrow the government. It's published on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Care to react to this report this morning, sir?
When the news broke out some months ago, I think in October, that some military guys were plotting a coup against the president. A lot of Nigerians did not take it seriously. Some thought it was just a gimmick, and some believed that it was just certain narratives because they want to replace or remove the then Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher. But then, with this report this morning of the military submitting the names of the coup plotters, I believe that now Nigerians will take that news more seriously. And then my advice to the inquiry, the panel of inquiry that will be handling this, is that they must do their due diligence and leaving no stone unturned.
Now, in terms of due diligence, what are you calling for? Because this is a case bordering on treasonable offenses.
Yeah, it is a treasonable offense. And then when I say due diligence, what I'm trying to say is that it should not be politicized. It shouldn't be politicized. There should be a proper investigation to know the shadow parties, to know the sponsors, and the people who are involved. You know, it is the coup will not just happen because these military guys want to take over power. They actually wanted to disrupt system. They wanted to disrupt activities in the country, and that is why we need to know who are the sponsor. Is it something that they wanted to do, or something that is sponsored by the outside world? That is what I meant by due diligence and proper research and proper investigation. And then it shouldn't be politicized by no means.
Now, Patriot Desmond, beyond Nigeria is a growing concern of coups sweeping across the sub-Saharan region as well, with the uprising of the Sahelian states. The failed coup attempt in Benin Republic, which was thwarted again by the intervention of Nigeria. What are some of the lessons to learn from this, and how do we find a homegrown democracy that is widely accepted across Africa?
Yeah, that for some years now, West Africa as a whole has been battling with the issue of junta government, people overthrowing governments, and it has been a major challenge. And then, well, that is not very far from the current maladministration that has marred most African countries, and the overstretching influence of some foreign superpowers, some foreign influence. Like in West Africa, can also recall that most of the countries that have been involved in coup and taken over by military, most relate the allegation to poverty that has ravaged the country, and a case of where many people are living without prospect, without basic amenities yet. From report, these countries have been reported to be countries with so much affluence, but yet the citizens of this country couldn't enjoy those wealth. And that is the reason for the plot, for the coup that has taken place in these African countries. But Nigeria, that is not the case. That is not the case. So there has to be investigation on what has happened, who are the sponsors, and then they must be brought to justice. You know, you can also recall that a certain former minister of petroleum and also a former governor of Bayelsa State was also linked to this sponsoring of this, what is so alleged. You know, so that is why I say that whoever is responsible for sponsoring the coup in Nigeria, I'm happy that the Nigerian military have submitted the names of the plotters, and then investigation should be intensified, and then shouldn't be politicized.
All right, then, let's move on to another report coming in this morning, and it's over the House of Representatives, where apparently the leadership has disowned a minority caucus report following those allegations of altered tax bills that were raised by Honorable Abdulsamad Dasuki earlier on. What do you make of this at a time when even the Oyo State governor has lent his voice to the controversy surrounding the tax law?
You know, it's falling. We are Nigerians, and we're part of the process. You know, before the eventual assent of these bills by Mr. President, you know, these bills have traveled different states, House of Assemblies, and there have been deliberation. There are even public sittings of these issues all over the country. So I am very much surprised when the call was made by Honorable Dasuki that the tax bills was not properly scrutinized, and that even Oyo State Governor Sheyi Makinde, you know, over the weekend, when he also said that most state governors did not have a place in the new tax law. It is laughable in the sense that these are matters of serious national interest, and it was properly scrutinized. If someone like me, a common citizen of Nigeria, have access to sittings of these important tax reforms in different areas, and then someone highly placed, even a member of National Assembly, making claims that they didn't really get involved in the processes that led into the signing of that bill. You know, it's funny.
No, Petro Desmond.
I want to believe it is a politics. This is just political.
Petro Desmond.
You know, it's nothing close to fact.
Petro Desmond, for a fact, Honorable Ahmad Dasuki backed his allegations with proof. He cited that the gazetted copies differed in the clauses that empowered the NRS to arrest tax invaders, and he pointed to Section 35, saying that that clause was not present when they deliberated on the tax laws, but that the gazetted copies contained those. The National Assembly had to go back and even publish the certified copies of what they deliberated, showing that there was quite a discrepancy in that line. Do you think for that fact that those responsible for that ought to have been probed?
Good and fine. You know, this is a different ball game now. It is a different ball game in the sense that now what Honorable Dasuki is trying to say right now is that there are certain clauses that were misplaced or replaced. You know, that is different from what Sheyi Makinde is saying, that the country, the governors do not have their say in the tax law. So, well, this should be directed to the leadership of the National Assembly, perhaps to the chairman of the National Assembly, His Excellency Senator Herbert Akpabio, and then those the legislative aid to the president that may be involved in the transmission of this document to the president. So this is not something that should be discussed in the media or something that should generate some public controversies, or because there is a link. There are people responsible. It is when there are no people responsible for this that we can generate certain controversies from it. Now we have people who are responsible with this transmission of this document from the National Assembly to Mr. President. So it shouldn't be an issue that should be overflowed in the media or generating certain controversies in the country. My take.
Now, Petro Desmond, that's a brilliant take. Where it gets even more dicey now that you've called for the chairman of the National Assembly's intervention is the fact that the House of Representatives has issued a statement saying that this report by the minority caucus has breached a legislative protocol, that they are not supposed to issue an interim report, that there is no room for them to even investigate allegations of breach by themselves as a minority caucus, despite the severity of the matter. Do you think that before issuing such a statement, it shouldn't have passed through the due legal proceedings, despite the fact that it might have some substantiated claims?
How are you? Yeah. Well, what I can say in this matter is that whoever who is responsible should be investigated properly, and then this shouldn't be taken lightly, and this should not be taken for granted. Nigerians deserve proper and responsible representation from our legislators and from whoever have been placed with the responsibility of providing governance. It has to be due diligence. You know, there has to be scapegoat. The issue of punishing the culprit should not be politicized.
Now, Petra, it seems as though the National Assembly, upon resumption from plenary, a 35-day break, would have their hands full. Stakeholders are calling that they prioritize the Electoral Act amendments. This issue is also lingering on the one hand. If you were to give, would I call it, some advice ahead of resumption from plenary, what?
This is a serious national issue. So I do not buy into the fact that the National Assembly is on the break. This should call for emergency sitting. You know, we're talking about Nigeria. We're talking about laws. You know, it's not something we can joke with. So it's not about whether the National Assembly is on break or recess or something. No. The chairman, like I said earlier, must be called upon. The National Assembly must find a way, you get what I'm saying, to set up an inquiry or to set up something very, very important, you know, in that regard. So it is a serious issue. You know, we're talking about tax reforms. We're talking about tax law that affects everyone in Nigeria. So there is no issue that is more important and more serious than the issue of the tax reform. So the National Assembly must be called. You know, this is a serious national assignment.
Now, you had earlier referenced Governor Makinde's statement over the weekend, but let's come to him as well. He was speaking in comparison to what was tenable during the era of President Muhammadu Buhari, citing the role his vice, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, played, saying that Nigeria misses leaders like him, that under the current dispensation, it's very rare to find any Nigerian that can speak truth to power. In reference to the tax laws, he says that broader consultation should be allowed at a time like this, when controversies surrounding the tax laws are dividing opinions across the nation. Beyond the politics of his statement, is there anything to take away from it?
What Governor Seyi Makinde alluded to, that we missed Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, from all indication, it's just political. It is just political, but that is not to say that we do not need responsible personalities at the helms of affairs, of handling our national issues and handling public issues. So for me, it is a positive statement that we should have listening leaders. But for me, I believe that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is also a listening leader. So far, so good. He's different from his own style of governance, has been publicly described as a responsive leader, you know, that attends to issues. So for me, that statement is just political, because if you want to say you need a responsible person to be, or you miss, there are people who are going to miss President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the end of the day.
Now, he also went further. He said that he was barely 7 months in office when COVID struck, and that he remembered the role that Professor Yemi Osinbajo played as the chairman of the National Economic Council, thereby carrying all the governors along, thereby insinuating that, like you said earlier, that most governors were not really carried along when this controversy stemmed, and at this point, there should be that sort of meeting to get the position of every governor across Nigeria?
So we should take more seriously in the national dailies. You know, the issue of Governor Seyi Makinde making those claims that would miss the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo. Well, perhaps, maybe because he's not in the same party with the President, there are people who would say boldly that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the best president, a listening father, and the rest of them. So, for me, that statement is political. It is political. Because you can't tell me that you miss Yemi Osinbajo, and then he was also in the same election with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and Nigeria chose President Bola Ahmed Tinubu over Yemi Osinbajo. So it is just a political statement.
Talking about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's plan for a $20 billion investment in the oil and gas sector, Shell CEO has indeed commended Mr. President and the administration for this giant stride. But I believe Nigerians watching us would want to understand what this $20 billion investment would mean for the average Nigerian who is directly or indirectly affected by fuel prices.
Yeah, thank you, Chijoke Okafor, for that question. You see, yesterday, I just arrived from Lagos, and I had a bit of opportunity of speaking with some individuals. Earlier they have been complaining that they do not understand the direction at which the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is heading. But recently, a lot of people have started applauding Mr. President for his foresightedness and the manners and ways in which he has been handling the affairs of the country, especially with regards to the economy. You see, if you go to the markets today, you find that the cost of commodities is dwindling, is reducing. When President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came to power, he did promise that we wanted to reform the economy. We wanted to hand over a brighter and a prosperous Nigeria to whoever will succeed him. And then a lot of people quite do not understand that. Even when he announced suspension or unification of the dollar rate, as well as suspension of our subsidy, quite a lot of people cried. They cry because they do not understand what will be their fate or what would happen to them. But recently, his reforms have started yielding positive results. The trips he has made so far is also yielding positive results by attracting direct investments into this country and the nation. So the only thing I can tell you is that so far so good, the president is on track. He has barely spent 3 years or 2 years in the office. And yet, he has been doing fantastically very well. You get what I'm saying? He has been doing so well.
Well, quite rightly so, Pedro Desmond, in your analysis of how well the president has been doing in his handling of the economy. But in clear terms and in proper perspective towards this $20 billion investment, my question exactly is, how will it affect the oil and gas industry? Is it going to create better opportunities for local investors? Is it going to open up more doors for FDIs? What exactly is it going to be? Are we going to see a level playing ground where more investors will come in and play active roles like the Dangotes and the rest? Is that the picture we are looking at with this huge investment?
Much for redirecting the question back to me. And let me speak directly to the question, which is the $20 billion that the president has just attracted into the country's oil sector. What is it going to mean to the country? Now, just let me give you a clear example that many Nigerians can relate to. Look at the issue of petroleum. For so many years, a lot of people have been going through hell, especially during festive period, because of scarcity and all that. Ever since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office as the president, the issue of fuel scarcity has gone into a thing. Well, it has disappeared. And beyond that, fuel is now accessible. There is a broad, clear plans, on the future of Nigeria petroleum. And that is why you see that a lot of people are now investing in that regard. Look at what Dangote refinery. Dangote refinery was built with about $20 billion US, or a little bit less. And yet,
the president has attracted another 20 billion US dollars, which means we are still going to have more. We are going to have something better or bigger, just like what the Dangote has erected in Lekki. So by the time we have about 2 of such facility in the country, it will affect, it will ripple down to the common lives. It will affect lives. And you know what that will mean is that there's going to be competition. The claims that Dangote is monopolizing petroleum will disappear. And when there is fair competition in the oil and gas sector, especially in the refining of petroleum and in that aspect, it will mean that the price of petroleum, just like the president promised that he would bring the price down, that is doing everything possible to ensure that Nigerian buys petrol at 300 naira, at 200 naira. It's still possible with this investment that was attracted to the country. That is making that statement or that vision or dream more realistic and possible.
All right, Petra Desmond, while the Shell CEO has pledged the $20 billion investment, NMDPRA is also eyeing an additional between 30 to 50 billion US dollars investments in the midstream sector. With all of these things coming into play, remind you, the NMDPRA leadership was changed a couple of exactly, a couple of weeks or months ago, and Nigerians had their fingers crossed as to what the new management or the new helmsman will achieve. But here we are, barely 3 months down the line, talking of a whooping $50 billion investment in the downstream sector. The midstream and downstream sector.
Yes, this is, for me, in a clear term, this is practical, what I can describe as a practical government in action. Government in action. The renewed hope mantra, the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is now beginning to gain traction. And that means that sincerely and truly, there is hope in this government. You see, for so many years, Nigerians have gone through what they can describe as a government without direction. For many years, no direction, no blueprint, no future, no hope. But this man, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his team, they've come on board and they are beginning to bring visible change. Even President of blessed memory, President Muhammadu Buhari, that promised change. Nigeria barely saw the change. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu promised hope. And sincerely, government of hope is beginning to show and is beginning to gain traction with this positive news and visible investment, not audio investment. You know, over the years, it has been a government of deceit, you know, where certain investments were promised. And at the end of many years, you will not see anything. But this government is saying it, and they are practicalizing it, and they are doing it. And it is visible with the level of project that they embarked on. Just recently, I was on a side scene of the Lagos to Calabar super highway, and I can see the level of progress. These are some of the effects of the dividends of the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So what I can say now is that the renewed hope agenda or mantra of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with what is happening in the MNPDR, with what is happening in our oil sector, is beginning to gain traction. A lot of Nigerians will not understand what it means, no matter how you explain, but with time, by the time these infrastructures, these projects have been properly commissioned, that is when they will begin to see the ripple effect as how it's going to affect their daily life.
Now, of course, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority boss had beaconed on the private sector to inject this amount of money between $30 billion to $50 billion. But earlier I had stated something about private investors being wooed into the oil and gas industry. Do you think that the sector is attractive enough and palatable for people to join in? considering the travails and woes of Dangote when he first kicked off with labor unions, trade unions, and even institutions like the NMDPRA itself.
What I can tell you with respect to the call made by the boss of the NMPDRA is the fact that Nigerians need to get involved. Most Nigerians invest outside Nigeria because of the lack trust in the process. What President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is trying to do with some of the reforms and some of the actions he's taking is that he's trying to restore the confidence of investors. And that is why there have been some amendment to petroleum bills, and so many things have been amended. It is not business as usual. And that is why when he noticed foul play, what he did for the interest of the country is to replace the leadership of these agencies. And then with this call, is that look at Dangote. Dangote is an example of local investors. Dangote is not a foreign investor. He is a local investor. And then the federal government has given him all the necessary support as well as security of his assets. And these practical steps taken by the government of APC in respect to private sector is to boost the morale and the confidence of investors. So this call is apt, is timely, and then the advice is that most Nigerians that have lost trust in investing in the country should look at evidences of some of the private investors in the country, the local investors in Nigeria, and see whether they're making profit or not, and then they should probably live from there.
Now, Saidu Mohammed had made this announcement over the weekend while he was doing or was undergoing a 3-day tour of facilities in Rivers State. Now, he had stated that the removal of fuel subsidy, petroleum subsidies by the President Tinubu-led administration has sort of rejuvenated the sector. Is this true? And do you think that the oil and gas sector was lying dormant prior to the inception of this administration, and that historic declaration by Mr. President when he was first sworn into office?
Well, I strongly back the statement by Saidu in respect to the removal of subsidy and how it has helped the sector. It is a fact. It is a fact. You know, the subsidy regime has done a lot of harm to the country beyond the money, beyond losing a lot of our money to a few individuals in the name of subsidy. Nobody, during the era of subsidy, nobody invests. Nobody is doing any investment. It is a government of robbing Peter to pay Paul, where people will bring in, people will tell you that they are investing in petroleum sector by bringing in empty vessels into the country. Is that investment? Still, they will get billions of dollars from the covers of government in the name of subsidy on nothing, on empty vessels. On empty vessels. So the subsidy removal has brought some level of credibility into the sector and transparency. And that is when you can begin to see feasible improvements and the morale of private investors, foreign investors in that regard. And that is what is yielding results. So to most Nigerians, if you look at the oil sector now, it is not just a case of bringing investment into the country. No, people have now started investing in what they call mini refinery, modular refineries, and then licenses are now being given to a lot of people, to set up refineries across the country and all that. So this is only possible. It's not just about statement. It is about the traction. It's about the effect of the subsidy removal, because it's about removing the bureaucracies, removing the corruption. Because the reason why a lot of Nigerians have not invested so much in oil sector over the years and just doing these shady deals with this importation of petroleum is because of the subsidy. You can't have fuel subsidy and you want to invest your money where people are making free money. People are making free money from the sector by just bringing paper. Just bringing paper to the Ministry of Petroleum, they will give you billions of naira. That's in the name of fuel subsidy. But now, there has to be, you have to show us what you are doing. Nigerians have to see it, feel it, and you can make genuine profit from the business. That is one good thing that the fuel subsidy has done to the country, above just saving money, or beyond just saving money.
Now, Pedro Desmond, let's move on to yet another matter in the news this morning. Away from the oil and gas industry or sector, let's move to the aviation sector, where airlines or airline operators are beginning to complain about high operational costs. Now, they are seeking for further fare hikes while lamenting revenue loss and almost empty flights, talking about local flights in this instance. What do you think this sector needs exactly? There is a minister who is doing a lot to keep the sector alive, but it appears that things like revenue loss in terms of taxation and all of that, all of these are causing a lot of damage and are doing a lot of harm to the airline operators. And in turn, it sort of backfires on passengers who just want to travel from point A to point B.
Let me tell you, Shijoke, you see, what I can see with the issue of aviation sector is that we do not have enough sincerity by the players. Government has done its best. Government has done everything possible to create an enabling, a level playing ground to enable these investors in the aviation sector to thrive. Government has done its bit. Government has done everything that they should do, but their case always look like Oliver Twist. You know, because of the reforms. It's not only the tax, what is it called, the aviation sector that the new tax reform affected. The new tax reform affects almost every businesses.
Now, Petro Desmond, mind you, the airline operators are not complaining. They are not complaining. Petro Desmond, can you hear me? They are not complaining about the new tax regime or the new tax laws. They are not saying that that's what is causing this loss of revenue or an increasingly high fare of hello, can you hear me?
Shijoke, what do you mean by loss of revenue?
Loss of revenue in the sense that there are a lot of taxes, there are a lot of levies, not in relation to the new tax law. This has been happening even before January 1st, 2026. Now, they complain about some of these levies, these amounts that they have to pay, and that is the reason why, in most cases, if they are collecting 100,000 naira from one passenger, about 55,000 or 60,000 naira is actually going to the government, and they are only taking about 40% of the entire money. That is what their complaint is about.
Shijoke, let's get to understand this first. Do you know that what the chairperson, the national coordinator of this tax reform, has told Nigeria is that this new tax reform is trying to unify and replace multiple taxation that has been affecting businesses, that has stopped business from operating properly. Reduce. That is why they now say the NIN. The NIN would be for the thing will replace the tax ID for most businesses and most people. And they gave us explanation. They gave us explanation on how and manners in which these taxes will be collected. And then now what they are saying is that they are happy. Nigerians always complain about everything. That is one thing you must. And Nigerians are always very always attack change. They don't want change. When there is a change, you see a lot of laments, you see a lot of people complaining, and a lot of that. With time, when they understand, because this tax reform, I think it became operational by January, and then this is just January 26, and there have been a lot of complaints, and some of them have not even started paying. Some of them, none of them have started paying. So I don't know how Nigerians are not sincere with ourselves. First, it is the issue of the National Assembly that some clauses were put into the reforms, and this and all that. And now it is businesses that are yet to be taxed, apart from the transaction that have been taking place, maybe stamp duties. And this stamp duty have been there before. All this have been there before. So that is the point. But you see, one thing I want us to do is that most of the people who are complaining, I think we need to have a debate with them. You need to invite them to the studio and then let them come and speak directly to Nigeria and the authorities that are in charge of this taxation.
President Desmond, you travel a lot. Today you are in Lagos. The next day you are in Ondo. The following week you are in Abuja. When you travel, do you enjoy the high air tickets, the high cost of air tickets that you have to pay for perhaps a one-way trip from Abuja to Lagos or from Lagos to Abuja?
Let me say this. Presently, the cost of flights from Lagos is very, very affordable.
Do you think so?
Presently, as I speak to you, you can get a flight from Lagos to Abuja for 100,000, for as low as 100,000.
Did it go for as high as 400,000? Did it go for as high as 400,000 just a month ago?
Yes, and that is what I'm. That is, you see, people are not following, some issues like
why did it an almost 500% surge in airline tickets within the last couple?
Even the surge that took place in December. Did they tell you that is as a result of tax?
Well,
was it as a result of tax? Because even the tax was not operational by December.
I want you to remove the new tax regime from this discussion. The airlines are not saying the new tax regime is why airline tickets are high.
Different.
They are talking about different levies and fees they have to pay to the federal government, to the Ministry of Aviation, and that is why prices of air tickets are high. That is what they are saying, and they are even now complaining and lamenting that they often fly empty flights, empty planes from point A to point B. But that is the truth. People can no longer afford air tickets. People can no longer afford air tickets in Nigeria, and they can't fly the roads because the roads are not safe.
Because they go to the south empty. They go through and
well, I do not understand the position that you hold from that studio. But what I'm trying to say, I'm a Nigerian. I understand that in December there was a surge, and then part of the reason for the surge is because most airlines that travels to these areas, there is a demand of a flooding of passenger one way into a particular area. So when they are coming back, sometimes they come empty, and they have to come back. They must come back to come and carry other passengers. So that was part of the reason for the surge of that cost in December. And then another thing is that, like I told you now that things have become normal, you can get flight from Lagos to Abuja for as low as 100,000, 110, 115, 109, 120, depends on your preference. And then so that is just it. It's in business. You also need to know that the higher the demand, also the higher the prices.
Petra, before we carry on, do you care to just check if you have a TV set or a radio set turned on your end? Because there is a signal interfering with the discussion.
Okay, I will deal with the interference now. Apology for that.
Okay.
I'm in a public. I'm within the public space. That is why. Okay. And I believe that that noise from the background will reduce.
All right, that's fine. Thank you very much. All right, let's get your concluding thoughts on this matter before we move on to yet another serious case in the news.
What I can say to the gentlemen in the studio is that most Nigerians some of them, sorry to say, they are not really in business to make impacts and to add value or to create enabling environment for the country. Some of them are only interested in what they get out of business, and that is profit. Yes, I know businesses are set up with the aim of making profit, but not at the detriment of the country, prosperity. It's from taxation, it's from governance that we can recycle the wealth, and then we can have tangible infrastructure development. So the issue of tax is not something we can throw under the carpet, and there is no government. If you go anywhere in the world, a lot Nigerians complain when they are in Nigeria, but when they're outside Nigeria, they comply with the government there. If you know what people pay in terms of taxation in other countries, you would even appraise our government. But I'm not trying to justify, because one of the reasons why a lot of Nigerians are against taxation is because they've asked these critical questions, that they have not seen the effects of these taxes on our infrastructure development because of the handlers. Those who handle our tasks, some of them are irresponsible. That has been the argument. And then I think to that end, why we want to encourage Nigerians to be responsible when it comes to the issue of tax and paying tax, we're also calling on the government to try to be more accountable and responsible in dealings with the taxpayers' money. My conclusion in respect to the complaints by some of these operators or businesses in the country that are complaining, some of them, sincerely speaking, Chijoke, they are not sincere. They are not sincere. Nigeria is one of the best countries in the world where you can make profit in businesses. Government is trying to do everything. They are giving a lot of waivers. They are supporting businesses because they are trying to attract investors. So let no one deceive you. Let no one try to talk down on the government or the country because of they're trying to evade taxation.
All right, Pedro Desmond, I know I had stated that was going to be the last question, but let's talk about the idea of owning, a federal government-owned airline in the country, like we had in the days of Nigeria and the rest. Don't you think that having something of that sort would sort of help out in easing the difficulty that Nigerians have to go through this independent airline operators every now and then, and now they're calling for higher airfares and all? Don't you think that the government should step into this and perhaps create a national career for Nigerians to be able to?
I sincerely agree with you that there is a need for the government, Nigerian government, to have a national carrier, a national airlines, in order to set the templates and set the pace for others to emulate or to follow. And that will go a long way in controlling the excesses of some of these private investors and private airlines. And that brings me back to the issue of irresponsible governance. Nigerians, we have always had Nigerians airways, and it was destroyed by lack of accountability, corruption, and irresponsible behavior by some of the operators and some of the government of the day. And then, so first, before we can talk about having our own airways, it is very important to scrutinize that sector, to scrutinize and to ensure that they leave no stone unturned, and then to ensure that there is accountability in the operations and in the management of the airways. Because just last regime, billions of Nigerian naira was invested, on our national carrier, and there were some celebration by the former Minister of Aviation, not until it was reported that it was just a rented airway from Rwanda Air and all that. So all this kind of corruptions and insincerity in government should be dealt with, and we need to bring in a kind of partnership with the private sector, because government have no hand in business. Government have no hand in business, but government needs to partner and have maybe about 80% of the share and bring in private individual, to handle it. And that is the only way we can succeed in our own national carrier.
All right,
so it is a good call that Nigeria needs to have their own national carrier.
All right, Pedro Desmond, moving on away from the aviation sector, let's talk about SERAP that we hear is suing the Minister of Power, Chief AdeLabu and NBET to court over what they described as an unaccounted 128 billion naira and the most recent blackouts that we've been having in the country, which is now a norm. Talking about the national grid collapsing every now and then. Again, SERAP is in the news with its very heavy allegations on the minister, much like it has done on several other ministers and even Mr. President himself. But what do you think of the situation with our power sector?
If there is any sector presently that we need to investigate, that we need to charge to do more and to be more responsible and accountable to Nigeria, is the power sector. I tell you, there is a lot of gimmicks in that sector that even me do not understand. First, the issue of band A, band B, band C, for me is a scam. But I wouldn't want to speak about that first, because that is not the question you asked. The question you asked is in respect to what SERAP has called that misappropriation of about 100 and something billion.
128 billion naira.
120 billion naira. You see, for me, beyond what SERAP has said, personally, I can see, for me, some mismanagement of Nigerians' assets by the chains of this power sector, the generator company, the distribution company, and the people who maintains this. You see, if you go to our rural communities, there are houses that still pay without electricity. Let me give you a clear example. Epe is in Lagos State. Every house is in Epe, at the end of every month, whether there is light or there is no light, pays 15,000 naira. 15,000 naira, whether there is light or no, except those who have prepaid meter. And then if you check very well, for many months, Epe has been in total blackouts. And still, NEPA, AdeLabu Ministry, is still collecting money from the people. And they are not providing service. That is one. Now, first, this money that is being collected from these estimated billings, where is that money? Where is the accountability in respect to that money? That's one. Then number two, the issue of band A, band B, band C, and people paying on irregular amount because of their environment and all that. There needs to be a proper accounting of this money, because for me, I don't know how true or factual is the evidence and the claim by SERAP. But for me, personally, as a person, as a Nigerian that is also using electricity and also have home or houses where we pay, I can tell you that the government has not done really well in that regard. And as AdeLabu, who happens to be the Minister of Power, needs to be asked certain questions.
Now, while still staying with the power sector, another bone of contention that we continue to see on a daily basis is the metering gap that Nigerians complain and groan about time and time again. And just recently, the same Ministry of Power, which Chief AdeLabu chairs or heads, has come out to state that Nigerians would now receive meters for free and they do not have to pay. This was, received with a lot of cheers and excitement by Nigerians. But further investigation into this revealed that some certain discos have stated that that particular agreement is only meant for people who are on band A, and then band B, C, and D, and the rest do not have anything regarding free meters or having their houses metered for free. What is your position on this situation? And do you think that perhaps the Ministry of Power is not being transparent enough with Nigerians, or is the fault from the discos?
Hello?
Did you get my last
Hello?
question? Petra Desmond?
Yes, I did. I did got the question.
All right.
In respect to the meter, I listened to some video reports and some video in circulation on the social media where Mr. AdeLabu, the Minister for Power, was making that statement that Nigerians should report any company that is collecting money from this World Bank supported meters of about 3-point-something million that they took possession of, and I saw them. I saw this statement was issued at the Tinker Apapa, where they went to receive this meter. You see, one thing is to make statements, another thing is to implement. Implementation has always been the problem. Just like the case of when President Tinubu withdrew, directed the IG, Inspector General of Police, to withdraw VIP police. You know, it took extra effort by the President and the Inspector General of Police before that statement could see the lights of the day. Now, this issue of meter, even presently, I am still asked to bring about 215,000 naira to get a 3-phase meter in my house. So I don't know who is playing with us or who should be held accountable. But the truth is that meter as of today is not free. Meter as of today is not free. Personally, I'm still being asked to pay for meter, despite the fact that there was a call made by the Minister of Power. So for me, it shouldn't be a case of a toothless bulldog that only come on the media to make some remarks and some claims and some statements without any practical steps and action. Who do we report to? How do we report our concerns? How do we transfer our dissatisfaction to the minister? Or how would the minister, what is the measures? What are the portals? What are the implementation? What are the areas to go about these things? That is what I am interested in, not just to make a statement on the social media.
Now, there are two things in question here. If Nigerians decide to hold these discos accountable and state that, oh, you know what, we have been told that we will no longer be charged for meters. So why are you charging me 200 and something thousand of 100,000 naira for meters? Do you think that the discos would comply? That is one question. Then on the second part, SERAP had sort of sought an order of mandamus to direct and compel Chief AdeLabu and NBET to disclose details of how the missing or diverted 128 billion naira was spent, including the dates of disbursement and the purported beneficiaries or contractors who received the money, as well as their registered businesses, business names and addresses. Do you think that even as SERAP has gone to court, that the Minister of Power and indeed NBET will be compelled to make all of this informations public? And is there a deep-rooted corruption in the power sector as it stands right now, as alleged by SERAP?
It's not even as alleged by SERAP. For me, I can tell you that there is a certain level of corruption that is ongoing in the power sector. You know, it is not just an allegation. For me, I can tell you, there are so many villages you go to in this country that they pay a lot of money. There is a corruption at different levels, from the distribution to the generation and all that. And even in the handling of affairs of this electricity and all that in this country, there is a lot of corruption. Nigerians are not getting value from that ministry. And then the minister needs to he needs to step up his game to ensure that Nigerian gets dividends of government from his ministries and from the electricity sector. Presently, there is a corruption going on, and then it may not be directly associated with the minister, but because it's at the hands of affairs, certain duty of care is allotted to him and responsibility is demanded from him, to give account of what is happening. And I think he should be responsible enough to make himself available to Nigerians and to discuss deep issues on what is happening in the power sector, because we do not even know who to hold responsible. If you hold the distribution company responsible, what they will do next is that they may not give you access to electricity. They may, even in some areas, individuals, citizens are still, responsible for providing what they call transformers. Individuals repairs, individuals contribute money to repair what they are paying for. This is not really good. It's not good. And then the minister needs to step up his game, and then they need to provide more responsiveness and accountability to the Nigerian people, because Nigerians are paying for service that they are not enjoying.
All right, it's about the meter. You have not actually cleared the air on the meter. How can Nigerians hold this discourse accountable? You've rightly talked about Chief AdeLabu and NBET and the fact that SERAP, has sued. But an average Nigerian like you and I, for instance, in the Federal Capital Territory, I set up a house and I want AEDC to meter my house and they are charging me money. Can I complain to maybe the FCCPC or any other agency saddled with responsibility of handling such matters?
Shijoke, I am telling you technically, I choose not to speak on that because there's no laid down steps that Nigerians should take by these ministries or by the Public Complaint Commission or anything. There is no step, there is no clear court steps that we should take. And then if I am just here standing that you should do this, you should do that, it might not be true. It is the Ministry of Power that has that responsibility to tell us what we should do and what Nigerians should do. It is not me. Because even me myself, I am in the hook.
All right, quite brilliant points laid out there, Petro Desmond. Let's leave this matter and move on to another matter in the news. This time around, turning our attention to political matters. 2027 is around the corner, and we hear that Kano governor's defection has put his deputy on the spot as well. Trying to decide whether to stick with his governor or to go with the political godfather of politics in Kano State, talking about Alhaji Musa Rabiu Konkoso, who is of the NNPP and has been in the media lately crying bitterly over what he has described as betrayal from Governor Kabir Yusuf.
Please, can you take that question again?
All right, Pedro Desmond, I was talking about the Kano governor's planned defection and how it has put his deputy governor on the spot, who is torn between siding with his boss, the governor, or siding with the political godfather of Kano State, Musa Konkoso, who is also of the NNPP and has been in the media complaining bitterly about the betrayal, or what he alleged as a betrayal from his political godson, Kabir Yusuf.
You see, we all know that politics has always been a case of interest. And if there is one thing that is very constant in politics, and a very scarce commodity in politics is loyalty. Loyalty is very scarce and is not common. Interest is very, very much common. And then you can say that most governors in the country, they are defecting from their power, from their own political party to a different, to another party. And then most Nigerians have been asking, what could be the reason for this defection? Because people are not, it is not the will of the people that you should leave the party in which, or the platform in which they supported and voted you. It is it for your own will. Most of them have not been able to give Nigerians any reason. And that tells you more about these people. They are all for their own selfish interest. Even the leaders who is bitter about the decision of the governors, why they are leaving their party, some of them, they are also created their party for interest. And then it is politics. That is pure politics. What is happening right now is pure politics, and it is normal. It is natural.
All right.
So no one should complain.
Do you see? Well, certainly they have the right to complain, but at the end of the day, only time will reveal what the situation will be like. Now,
the people who have the right to complain is the people, the Nigerian people who voted, not this leader that just created platforms.
Let's talk about this godfatherism and how it has affected or influenced Nigerian politics across different states. If you take a look at the situation in Rivers State, the FCT minister Barrister Nyesom Wike versus successor Siminalayi Fubara. You know the story behind that situation. If you take a look at Kaduna State, Governor Obasani and his predecessor, talking about the former FCT minister and former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai. So many other instances of people who are, who have fallen out with their political godfathers, and it has sort of created a rift and made the state almost ungovernable in some instances like Rivers State. How badly do you think godfatherism has impacted Nigerian politics rather than making it better?
Well, from the word Godfather, you see, naturally, Godfather is supposed to be a true leader, someone who guides you, supports you, and help you to achieve more successes and deliver more to the people. But in the case of Nigeria, Godfatherism has been a clear cause in the country, because most states where Godfatherism is at its peak, you see that at the end of the day, it is the citizens that is being ripped of their rights and privileges and what they should enjoy, prosperity that they should enjoy, at the detriment of this Godfatherism has always been at the detriment of the people. And then for me, I am totally against Godfatherism, because Godfatherism has not really yielded any good. It is only a case of 1 out of 100 that we have seen the benefit of Godfatherism. Just one case out of 100. Most states where you have Godfatherism, the interest is paramount. The interest of these Godfathers has always been paramount against the will of the people. So it is a good thing for me that has never been in support of Godfatherism to see that most governors are now disown their fathers and standing alone. If only they are doing that to provide governance to the people, good and fine, to hell with these godfathers that have enjoyed their own era, their own time, and no one godfather them. No one has so much influence on them. They had the opportunity to provide governance based on their instinct, based on their own direction. Suddenly want to become a god for another person and depriving such person from delivering the dividend of government to the people. So for me, Godfatherism is a bad thing, and it has no good intention. And if the governors are now standing up against it for the interest of the people, good and fine. And that should be the right way or where to go.
All right, Pedro Desmond, let's still tilt our attention to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which is in the National Assembly, and something that former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar had accused the National Assembly of deliberately forestalling in order to not allow for a free and fair and credible elections in the 2027 general polls. The National Assembly has responded in its own way to the former VP. Now, other stakeholders have also urged the National Assembly to prioritize these reforms so as to create a level playing ground when elections kick off in 2027. But what is your position on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, and how well will this do when electorates go to the polls in 2027?
Some of the main issues that they are seeking amendment to, or if you can just give me, because I've not seen the amendments, I've not seen the clauses and the bills.
Well, one of them is the fact that there will be a live transmission of a live electronic transmission of election results as they are being collated. It doesn't have to be the regular old style way of having to wait till it's collated at a collation center. The returning officers have to do this and that. Nigerians have to see it as it is happening. It's just one out of the many things in the bill that would transform how our elections hold. Then secondly, it would also allow for diaspora voting, something that has been at the front burner of a lot of people who have been advocating for this bill to be passed into law. I just want to get your take on these two matters before we round off.
Thank you so much. You see, like we always say, that Nigeria election is yet to be perfect. Just like there is no perfect elections anywhere in the world. And our responsibility as the people and the government is to ensure that we are moving close to excellent results and perfection. So, and there will always be amendments. There will always be amendments, to that effect. Because it's only through amendment that we can correct some anomalies. It's through amendment that we can actually improve on the election. So for me, the amendment and some of the clauses that you just read out, very, very fantastic. That results should be transmitted, because most of those who complained, most of the people who have been complaining about the last elections or previous elections, they have always been complaining about data being misplaced or results being rewritten. And then with this live transmission, it would to a large extent reduce corruption or misappropriation of results and other things. It would help in providing probity, accountability, and sincerity in the credibility of the results of election. So for me, it's accepted. And the issue of diaspora voting, I think I'm not sure we are ripe. We are ripe for that, because so far so good. How much has this diaspora contributing to the national growth and development? How much are they inclined with activities in the country? That is one thing. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, because some of them pay tax, some of them contribute certain resources to the Nigerian economy. But how much are we ready for that now? How much are we ready for that now?
Well, quite very salient questions you have raised here, President Desmond. I think it's a fine place to put, to nail the coffin and keep it shut. Well, thank you so much. This has been an interesting discussion, talking topical issues in the news this morning. We wish you the very best of the rest of your day.